REvil ransomware has been deployed on approximately 175,000 computers worldwide.
Imagine this, one click and 1,500 companies around the world go down simultaneously. Pharmacies, banks, factories. The demand, $70 million, or everything remains encrypted forever. This was the work of REvil, the most brazen ransomware group of the decade. Billions of dollars in damages, thousands of victims worldwide. Putin and Biden met because of them. And worst of all, almost all the hackers are still at large. But how did this happen? Today you'll find out how a teenager who hacked a store for a t-shirt became a key player in global extortion, why Russia arrested the hackers, confiscated a Lambo and millions. To understand the origins of REvil, we need to go back a few years. 2018, a new ad appears on a dark web forum. An anonymous user offers a turnkey ransomware solution, a ready-to-use program, support updates, everything needed to start making money from cyber attacks. Previously, such tools were only available to professionals. Now, they're accessible to anyone. But who is behind this program? As the FBI would later discover, about 10 people are behind GunCrab, but nothing is known about its creators. One of the key figures is Yaroslav Vasinski, nicknamed Robotnik. He grew up in an ordinary family in Ukraine, without money or connections. From childhood, the internet became his way out. At age 12, he started playing Counter-Strike, and that's where he first encountered cheats, hacks, and vulnerabilities. He didn't just use them, he began to figure out how they worked. At age 13, he found a bug in an online store and got himself a free t-shirt. For him, this was a turning point. He realized the system could be tricked, and no one would punish him for it. It only got bigger from there, hacking accounts and reselling them, working with other people's bank cards, and gaining access to botnets and other people's servers. He didn't invent anything new, he just learned quickly and began to scale up. By age 17, he was already making thousands of dollars a month. By 19, he had it all: experience, connections, and an understanding of how the underground market works. And it is at this very moment that he receives an offer that changes everything. One of his acquaintances, Lalartu, is already working with GunCrab. He offers Yaroslav a chance to join the scheme, a ready-made tool, a steady income, minimal risks. Vasinski agrees, and in just 1 year, he goes from being a lone operator to becoming part of a global system that makes hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide. GunCrab operated on a RaaS model, ransomware as a service. Essentially, it was a criminal franchise. There is a core group, the developers. They create the virus, update it, and manage the entire system from behind the scenes. And there are affiliates, the operatives. They hack companies, launch the ransomware, and negotiate with the victims. Yaroslav was one of them. The money is split. Part goes to the developers, the rest to those who carry out the attack. This model scales quickly. In a matter of months, GunCrab takes over the market. Up to 40% of all attacks go through their service. Thousands of companies around the world face extortion, and the toll runs into hundreds of millions of dollars. And just when everything is running perfectly, something strange happens. In the spring of 2019, the creators of GunCrab announced that they are shutting down the project and retiring. No one believes it. No one voluntarily shuts down a money-making machine. A few months later, a new ransomware strain appears, Sodinokibi, later known as REvil. Experts immediately notice the similarities. The same code, the same methods, the same people. But there is one key difference. REvil is changing the rules of the game. Before, the scheme was simple: encrypt the data, demand a ransom. But companies started making backups and refused to pay. So REvil added a second layer of pressure. They don't just encrypt the data, they steal it and threaten to leak it online. And from that point on, extortion turns into blackmail. And REvil has taken it to a whole new level. This is John Patel, an IT administrator for a small town. One morning, he turns on his computer and instead of the desktop, sees a message: your files have been encrypted. Restarting the computer doesn't help. The backup storage is down too. A few minutes later, calls start coming in from other departments. The police can't access their call database. The Treasury's accounting system isn't working. The city's website is down. An hour later, it becomes clear. It's not just one computer. It's the entire network. And similar messages are coming in from other cities across Texas. This is a coordinated REvil attack. But it began long before that. 2 weeks before the hack, John sets up remote access to the system so he can work from home. He doesn't know that such access credentials are sold en masse on the dark web. There are brokers who find vulnerable networks, crack passwords, and resell ready-made access credentials. Yaroslav buys one of these access credentials. He logs in at night, establishes a foothold in the system, and installs a backdoor, a hidden entry point that allows him to return to the network at any time. For several days, he studies the infrastructure, downloads data, and prepares the attack. After that, that, the encryption tool is launched. The ransom is $2.5 million. Some cities are refusing to pay. It takes weeks to restore the systems. But there's something more important. REvil has shown that it can shut down an entire region with a single strike, and the next attack will be even more severe. Over the past 2 years, REvil has been scaling up its operations. They've refined their software, made it impervious to most security measures, and started targeting major organizations. REvil's agents have struck at currency giant TravelX and leading food company JBS Foods, demanding a $17 million ransom and threatening to leak customer data. Next came Acer and Quanta Computer, an Apple supplier. The demand, $50 million, or else the blueprints for new devices would be leaked online. And these were no longer just empty threats. REvil published snippets of the stolen files, showing they were prepared to follow through. Companies were faced with a choice, pay up or lose their business. But even that wasn't the peak of their activities. The target is Kaseya, a company that manages the infrastructure of thousands of businesses. Hacking it means gaining access to all clients at once. One employee opens an email and clicks a link. That's all it takes. The hackers gain access to the system and embed an encryption tool into a software update that is automatically installed on clients' systems. In an instant, more than 1,500 companies around the world are infected. Pharmacies in Sweden, schools in New Zealand, banks in the US. They all see the same screen. Your data has been encrypted. The ransom demand is $70 million. And this is where REvil goes beyond cybercrime. They become a threat capable of bringing entire industries to a halt with a single click. But for every action, there is always a counteraction. After the attack on Kaseya, everything changes for REvil. Law enforcement agencies from several countries simultaneously close in on them. Their infrastructure begins to be dismantled, and their transactions and members are placed under surveillance. One mistake, and they'll be tracked down. But at that very moment, the group suddenly vanishes. Their websites are down. Their control panels aren't working. Partners lose contact. The hackers knew they were being watched and fired a warning shot. But history repeats itself. Just as GunCrab once went underground only to return with renewed strength, so too did REvil attempt to resurrect its infrastructure just 6 months later. Except that all this time, they were still being watched. The US brings charges against Yaroslav Vasinski and the alleged leader, Evgeny Polyanin. They are tracked down through a chain of errors. Darknet forums, servers, transactions. Polyanin disappears. Rumor has it, he's hiding in Barnaul. Vasinski is detained at an airport in Poland. He faces up to 14 years in prison. Meanwhile, former US President Joe Biden made an urgent call to Putin, threatening sanctions if Russia didn't help catch the hackers. And the result wasn't long in coming. The FSB is conducting raids in several Russian cities. Dozens of people have been detained, and millions in cash, equipment and vehicles have been seized. The capture of REvil at the request of US authorities has become one of the few instances in which hackers working against the West have ended up behind bars. And this begs the question, was this a genuine takedown or simply a political stunt? It's hard to say for sure, but as of today, most of those arrested have been released early or received lenient sentences. In an interview, Vasinski hinted that REvil might be linked to the Russian government. In fact, he is the only member of the group who has received a harsh punishment. But what about the group now? Officially, REvil has ceased to exist. Unofficially, the ransomware market is growing like never before. After their elimination, their tools didn't disappear. The code has improved and spilled over into other projects. Subscription-based hacking remains, and double extortion has become the industry standard. The attacks haven't stopped and are unlikely to ever stop. New players will inevitably emerge to take REvil's place. After all, when crime becomes a service, destroying a single front isn't enough.